If there is a direct correlation between spiritual evolvement and technological advancement, how is our secret space program able to create weapons capable of ushering and universal tyranny? And is it, and is it the secret space program that starts on Earth, the medium of tyranny that the Andromedans have been looking for? Is that the thing?
That's a that's a great question, and we're going to answer that one for you today, Lawrence.
Hurrah, hurrah!
We're going to answer that question for you today. Here is my understanding, and I'll let you know right up front. I don't know all the ins and outs, and I am sure that there are bits and pieces of this information that other people have that I don't have. But my understanding is that the original intention to create the space program was not only to explore, but also to protect the Earth, and in the event that something was coming that was going to be very catastrophic, that chances are we could find someplace else to go so humanity could survive. I believe that was the original intent, and that was the bill of goods that was sold originally to everyone who got into the program. This is why we have to do this. It changed and evolved after that. The dialogue began to change. The conditions in which the astronauts could continue to maintain their rank and their own safety in space changed as guidelines changed. What happened was, after they got off the planet, all the rules changed. And in fact, many of the astronauts that are part of the program, cosmonauts maybe is another word for it, many of them are still not fully aware of all the things that are going on out there. For example, the asteroid Cirrus in the asteroid belt, where the manufacturing of much of the weaponry is being done or was being done. It was compartmentalized. Equipment and pieces were made in different parts of that asteroid. There were things also being done on Mars. There were also things being done on Phobos. There were components being made, and then they were being taken to another ship where they would be put together, tested, and then an alien group was selling them to other rogue renegade alien groups. Most of this was not being done in and around our space fleet because they understood that there would be pushback. They understood that those of them who are us, who are human, who are connected to Earth, would have a real issue with this. In fact, what really brought this whole thing to a head, and how many of our astronauts and cosmonauts found out that this was going on, was through a contact between a benevolent race and one of the ships of our space fleet. Many of the astronauts and cosmonauts who were said to have been retired and being brought back to Earth were in fact never brought back to Earth. They were being blown out of an airlock into space. The powers that be that run this program, and the extraterrestrials that run this program, they gave the entire appearance that these cosmonauts and astronauts were being processed out of the fleet, and that they would be going back to finish the remainder of their life either on Earth or the Moon or Mars. They were in fact being killed. Nobody was coming back here. They They weren't going to do it. It wasn't happening. They found that information out from this benevolent group. They also found out about the weaponry. Those on our space fleet ship that had this conversation were basically given information about what was truly going on. And from there, it went from ship to ship to ship to ship. And there were issues. There were huge issues, to the point that our space fleet, that which is manned by Earth cosmonauts and astronauts, had to be quarantined for a time because they got really upset. Folks, there's a lot going on. I mean, there is a lot going on. And you know, what's interesting is that you would think that the more we research this, the more we delve into it, the more we try to gather all the pieces together to make the whole thing fit. What ends up happening is that it becomes more of a mystery as opposed to a bigger picture, because it's multidimensional. The actions that are occurring here are multidimensional. The reality is multidimensional in its structure. Okay, it affects not only third density, but it affects fourth density and it affects fifth density. See, we're just looking at it through the prism of third density. We don't see the other pieces, the other components, but it's there, and that's why the mystery deepens the more we find out about this, because we don't know how to put all the pieces together. And the more we find out about third density, it only opens up more questions, which lead us to fourth. And the more we figure out what that is, it leads us to fifth, to find out how this thing all comes together. It's extraordinary. It really is. It's absolutely extraordinary. And if you know, for those of you who have chosen to go down that rabbit hole, or those of you who choose to go down that rabbit hole, it's extraordinary because now you're training your mind to think holographically. There's a lot to be said for that. There is a lot to be said for that. Especially when you get that and your entire focus is on creating what you want. Okay, it's extremely beneficial. So Lauren, the weaponry that was being built by us, or in third density, was capable of being used in fourth. And I'm not sure in fifth. I don't know how it directly relates to fifth. That hasn't been shared with me. But the tyranny shows up, obviously. But tyranny can come in many different forms. It doesn't necessarily come at the point of a gun, or a laser weapon, or a photon blaster, okay, or a lightsaber. It can come in many different forms. So, there you go.